Crystal, where do we start? Should we just take it all the way back?
Let's run it back.
Okay. Let's take it back to 2011. As Amanda shared, I was serving as a middle school counselor. At that time at Eastwood Middle School, I was supporting students academically, socially, emotionally, putting out a lot of fires. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. And I was trying my best every day to serve students.
And I was working as a student programs advisor for the district, supporting multiple buildings with things like attendance needs, family concerns, responding to crises, basically doing the work of school social work, which is my education and training. So we were working in different buildings, we had different titles, but we were circling around some of the same work, just without a shared system.
And really, we functioned that way for a really long time. But let's fast forward to 2020.
Yeah, when I stepped into a leadership position, the coordinator of student support services for the district, right in the middle of COVID. So suddenly I was overseeing 12 building-based school social workers who had been hired years earlier when the district passed a referendum. But here's the thing, they had been hired without a plan for oversight and without a model to follow. So each building got to decide how they were going to use their school social worker. At the same time, I was supporting health services, managing the district's school-based mental health partnership, serving as the McKinney-Vento Homeless Education Liaison, the foster care point of contact, the district's liaison to the Department of Child Services, and helping to coordinate district community partnerships.
That's a lot. That's a lot. A little less than a year later, I accepted a new position, and I was called the lead school counselor for grades 6 through 12, because guess what? We only had school counselors in our secondary buildings. It was a temporary position, it was grant funded, ESSER funded, and it came with one big expectation: to implement comprehensive school counseling in our secondary schools. And I was overwhelmed. It was a lot. And I remember thinking, surely somebody has this figured out. But the reality was, we had big job descriptions, but not a lot of systems in place to support those jobs to actually get done. And I remember thinking, surely somebody has this figured out. But the reality was, we were building the plane while we were flying it. And every decision that we made felt so high stakes, because it really was dictating how a lot of people, a lot of professionals did their job, but more importantly, how students were served.
Yeah, and without a roadmap, we had to be focused and intentional about our work. We couldn't just copy and paste from other school districts. We really had to ask the question, what does our community need? And that question, it slowed us down a little bit, but it also made the work better.
A few months in, I remember a conversation with a executive level leader in our school district, and I remember passionately explaining to him how if we were really going to do comprehensive school counseling, we could not wait until kids got into 6th grade. And his response, is there even a model for that?
And that moment told us everything. Not only did we have a lot to build, we had a lot of educating, a lot of advocating, and a lot of learning to do ourselves.
What came next were grants, so many grants. I'm sure a few of you guys have written a few grants over the years. Some of those grants we got, and they got us to be able to do really, really great work, like partner with Hatching Results. And that really, the learning meant so much and really drove us forward. Those grants also helped us to do some really cool work in the elementary space. We were able to pilot elementary school counseling. It was so great. And some of the grants we did not get, but the reality was, with every grant that we worked on, it really forced us to clarify the roles of school counselor and school social worker. We really narrowed the focus.
And that's when the questions started to surface. Why do we need a school counselor and a school social worker? Isn't there overlap? Is there really enough work for everyone?
That's so funny.
It is. And actually, the answer started to emerge pretty quickly for us.
You know, for decades, school counselors had been the only mental health supports professionals in the secondary space. And for about 5 years prior, school social workers had been the only mental health supports in our elementary spaces. So the overlap wasn't really a new thing, but we were finally naming it.
And let's be honest, naming it was not always comfortable. Across the country, I hear school social workers speak about feeling minimized and misunderstood in their roles. And Jen hears school counselors who speak about feeling territorial over their roles. And honestly, it really all makes sense because the overlap is often the work we love the most.
But here's what changed everything. What we realized as leaders was that if we were really going to do this work, if we were going to implement comprehensive school counseling, if we were going to implement the school social work model and do it with integrity, that we could not do it alone. We needed each other. We really did. And the reality was that we could have protected our lanes. We could have built parallel systems for school social work and school counseling, and we could have avoided a very messy middle.
But we made a conscious decision to align publicly, even when it would have been easier not to. We knew school counselors were going to need the support of school social workers to fully implement the ASCA model. And we knew that school social workers were going to need the support of school counselors in order to align our role with our national model, which at its core requires school social workers to provide evidence-based behavior and mental health supports, to maximize access to school and community-based resources, and to contribute to a positive school climate and culture. So we were going to have to build lanes. We were going to have to acknowledge the overlap, and we were going to have to build highly collaborative school teams. And we were going to have to do something else. We were going to have to think a little bit differently about our leadership.
I don't think our leadership philosophy actually changed that much. And Crystal and I were really lucky. You heard us say we had been able to build trust because we worked together in the district for a really long time. But we had to lean into our leadership very intentionally. We had to have hard conversations. When things got tense, we had to be really honest with each other. And we had to be vulnerable. And we had to lead side by side, school counseling leadership and school social work leadership.
And that showed up in our systems. Our teams were watching us closely. They noticed who we invited into the room. They noticed whose voices were elevated. And they paid attention to how we spoke about each other when the other wasn't present.
And over time, they mirrored it. They did not just collaborate at a high level because we said, you guys should collaborate at a high level. They did it because we really modeled it for them. We did joint professional learning together. We included school social workers when we did our elementary school counseling pilot from the very beginning, and we built shared language.
Yes. And I saw what the ASCA model did for our school counselors, and it was the springboard for me to dig deeply into the National School Social Work model and the motivation to create a 5-year school social work strategic plan. I established the school social work leadership team, and this group was instrumental in developing and implementing the school social work strategic plan. So for the first time, we have clear goals and measurable outcomes to guide our work.
And I saw the strength of that shared leadership model that Crystal had established with school social workers. And I was trying to figure out how I'm going to do this. And I realized I didn't need to go it alone either, and developed a school counseling leadership team that has really driven our work forward. And as leadership teams, we have positioned ourselves together with our people who are here with us. We have positioned ourselves as learners. We have attended each other's conferences. I attended the NACI conference, which is for supporting homeless youth. Crystal joined us at ASCA. And spoiler alert, this is not Crystal's first time at the National School Counseling Leadership Conference. The biggest thing, though, was we really had each other's backs.
We did. And we stayed rooted in data and storytelling. We created flashlight one-pagers to help really tell the story of the work. This became one of our most powerful advocacy tools. This helped our superintendent really see the impact of the work.
And the result? Temporary positions were sustained. So that meant our elementary school counseling positions and my position as a leader. Those were sustained and expanded. And this year, in the 25-26 school year, we are thrilled that all of our elementary schools in our district are staffed with both a licensed school social worker and a licensed school counselor. And it's really, And it's really not about staffing ratios or anything like that. It's really about kids just not slipping through the cracks.
And it's about families only having to tell their story once and being supported by school teams that speak the same language.
And professionals doing the work they were trained to do, but doing it together.
And now our teams advocate for each other's roles. School social workers in Washington Township will push back if they hear anyone using the term guidance counselor. And school counselors in our district have become some of our strongest advocates for the role of school social work.
And as a result, systems are flowing, teams are collaborating, student outcomes are visible, and in a competitive hiring market, that comprehensive approach sets us apart.
We know we have so much more work to do, but what we also know, without question, is this.
We work better, our systems are stronger, our impact is deeper when we lead together. Thank you, guys.